Captain Dae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars. The Resilience was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was strong. Dae-ho had commanded the ship for 5 years. He trusted his crew, and they trusted him. "Captain," said Commander Hye-jin Park from her station, "we are entering the Andorian Spiral now." Dae-ho nodded. The Andorian Spiral was a region of space that most aliens avoided. It belonged to the Vorthak Empire. The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as the most dangerous species that ever reached the stars. They had conquered over 200 different alien races in the past 1,000 years. "Keep all sensors active," Dae-ho ordered. "I want to know if anything moves out there." The Resilience moved slowly through space. Around it, 3 smaller escort ships followed. The human fleet was tiny compared to most alien forces, but they had a job to do. Earth had sent them to explore this region and maybe find new allies. Lieutenant Junwoo Lee, the communications officer, suddenly looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm getting distress signals. Multiple ships coming from the inner system." "Put it on screen," Dae-ho said. The main screen showed several alien ships. They looked broken and damaged. Some had pieces missing. Others were leaking air and fuel. Dae-ho could see that these ships had been in a terrible fight. "They're Kalani ships," said Hye-jin. She had studied alien species for years. The Kalani are supposed to be one of the most advanced races in the galaxy. They have amazing energy shields and weapons. "If they look like this," said Junwoo, "what did this to them?" The answer came quickly. The lead Kalani ship sent a message. On the screen appeared a tall, thin alien with blue skin and large eyes. The alien looked scared and tired. When it spoke, the translation computer turned its words into human language. "Unknown ships, I am Captain Veltar of the Kalani Defense Fleet. You must turn back immediately. The Vorthak have taken our worlds. Our people are dead or slaves. Their ships are coming this way." Dae-ho stepped forward. "This is Captain Dae-ho Kim of the human ship Resilience. We can offer you help. Medical supplies, food, fuel." The Kalani captain's eyes became even larger. "Humans, you are new to this part of space. You do not understand. The Vorthak are not just another empire. They are death itself. They have weapons that can destroy entire star systems. They have conquered species that were older and stronger than anyone can imagine." "How many ships do they have?" asked Hye-jin. "Thousands. Millions. No one knows for sure. Every world they take gives them more ships and more soldiers. They turn the conquered people into slaves who fight for them." Dae-ho looked at his crew. They were all listening, carefully. Fear was starting to show on some faces, but not on all of them. "How long ago did they attack your world?" 3 days, said Veltar. "We had the strongest shields in the galaxy. We had weapons that could cut through any armor. We had a fleet of 800 ships. They destroyed us in 6 hours." The bridge became very quiet. 800 ships destroyed in 6 hours. The entire human fleet had less than 50 ships. "Listen to me, human captain," Veltar continued. "I have seen what the Vorthak do. They do not just kill. They break the spirit of every species they meet. They make them believe that fighting is useless. Then they offer a choice. Serve the Vorthak or die slowly." "What did your people choose?" asked Dae-ho. Veltar's head dropped. "Most chose to serve. The ones who refused were killed in front of their families. The Vorthak wanted the others to see what happens to those who say no." Chief Engineer So Young Choi spoke from her station. "Captain, the Kalani ships need help. Their engines are failing. If we don't do something soon, they'll be dead in space." Dae-ho made his decision quickly. "All ships begin rescue operations. Transfer as many Kalani as we can to our ships. Give them food, medical care, and fuel." "Captain," said Hye-jin quietly, "if we help them, the Vorthak will know we were here. They might come after us." "Then we'll deal with that when it happens," Dae-ho replied. For the next 4 hours, the human ships worked to save the Kalani refugees. Medical officer Taimin Nam moved between ships, treating wounded aliens. The humans shared their food and water. They fixed what they could on the damaged Kalani ships. During this time, Veltar told Dae-ho more about the Vorthak. They are not, like other conquerors, he said. Most empires want to rule. The Vorthak want to own. They change the people they conquer. They make them forget who they used to be. How do they fight? Asked Hyejin. With fear, Veltar answered. They show you how powerful they are. They make you believe you cannot win. Then they offer you the choice: surrender, or watch everything you love die. And it works? Always. Until now, it has always worked. Every species runs when they see the Vorthak coming. That is why I do not understand you humans. Why don't you run? You have seen our ships. You know what happened to us. Your ships are smaller than ours. Your weapons look primitive compared to ours. Yet you stay and help us. Why? Deho thought about this question. Around him, his crew continued their work. So Young was fixing a Kalani engine with spare parts and determination. Taemin was treating a wounded Kalani child as carefully as he would treat a human. Junwoo was teaching some young Kalani how to use human communication systems, because that's what humans do, Deho finally said. When someone needs help, we help. When someone is in danger, we don't run away. Even when you cannot win? Especially then. Veltar looked confused. I do not understand this. The Vorthak are too strong. No one can fight them and win. Maybe, said Deho, but someone has to try. If everyone runs, then the Vorthak win without fighting. If everyone gives up, then there's no hope left. As the rescue operation continued, more Kalani ships arrived. All of them were damaged. All of them carried the same message. The Vorthak were coming. They told stories of worlds burning, of entire species choosing slavery over death, of an empire that had never known defeat. How long do we have? Daiho asked. Not long, said Veltar. The Vorthak will send scouts first. They will want to know who helped us. Then they will send their warships. Corporal Woojin Bei, the ship's marine commander, stepped forward. Captain, the men are ready. We've checked all weapons and equipment. If the Vorthak want to fight, we'll give them one. Some of the Kalani heard this and looked at the humans with amazement. You would fight the Vorthak? For us? Not just for you, said Yijin. For everyone. Someone has to stand up to bullies. 3 hours later, the sensors detected new ships entering the system. They were big, dark, and shaped like giant predators. Even from far away, they looked dangerous. Vorthak ships, whispered Veltar. 10 of them. Each one is larger than your biggest ship. All Kalani ships that can travel, get out of here, ordered Deho. Get to safe space and warn everyone you can. What about you? Asked Veltar. Deho looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. We're going to buy you time to escape. Captain Kim, said Veltar, the Vorthak will ask you the same question they ask everyone. They will want to know why you don't run. What will you tell them? Deho smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was a determined one. I'll tell them the truth. We're human. We don't know how to run from a fight. The Vorthak ships were getting closer. Soon the humans would meet the galaxy's most feared empire. The crew of the Resilience prepared for battle, knowing they were probably going to die. But they also knew that some things were worth dying for. Behind them, the Kalani refugee ships began to move toward safety. The humans had given them hope. Now it was time to see if hope was enough to stand against the darkness. The stars watched silently as two very different ideas of strength prepared to collide. The Vorthak ships moved through space like giant monsters. Captain Deho Kim watched them on his screen. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the Resilience. Their hulls were black and covered with what looked like armor and claws. They did not look like machines. They looked alive and hungry. Captain, said Lieutenant Junwoo Lee, the lead ship is sending a message. Put it through, Deho ordered. The screen changed. A creature appeared that made some of the crew step back in fear. The alien was huge, maybe 8 feet tall. Its skin was dark red and covered with scars. It had 4 arms, each ending in claws. Its head was long and narrow with rows of sharp teeth. But the worst part was its eyes. They were completely black and showed no feeling at all. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold. The translation computer made its words into human language, but the voice still sounded like death itself. I am Admiral Thexmore of the Vorthak Empire. You are in our space. You have helped our enemies escape. This is a crime against the Empire. Daeho stepped forward. He tried not to show his fear. This is Captain Daeho Kim of the Human Exploration, Ship Resilience. We were providing humanitarian aid to refugees. We mean no harm to your empire. Thexmore's black eyes focused on Daeho. Humanitarian aid? What is this concept? You helped food that was trying to escape the kitchen. Commander, Hyjin Park looked confused. Food? The Kalani are now property of the Vorthak Empire, Thexmore explained. Some of our food ran away. You helped it. This makes you thieves. The bridge became very quiet. The humans realized that the Vorthak did not see other species as people. They saw them as things to be owned and used. We don't recognize your claim over the Kalani people, Daeho said carefully. They are free beings with their own rights. Thexmore made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not funny. It was the sound a predator makes before it kills. Rights? Food does not have rights. Tools do not have rights. Only the strong have rights. Only the Vorthak have rights. We disagree, said Daeho. Your disagreement is not important. Thexmore replied. What is important is that you learn your place. I have studied your species during our approach. You call yourselves human. You are new to this part of space. You do not understand how things work here. Thexmore leaned forward on his screen. I will explain. The Vorthak Empire has existed for 3,000 years. We have conquered over 200 species. We have weapons that can destroy stars. We have armies that have never lost a battle. Every species we meet makes the same choice in the end. They kneel or they die. And if we choose neither? Asked Daeho. There is no third choice, but I am feeling generous today. I will show you what happens to those who oppose us. Then you will understand why resistance is foolish. The screen changed to show images that made several crew members look away. Cities burning, alien families being separated, children crying as their parents were taken away, ships being destroyed with all hands aboard. This is what we did to the Kalani homeworld, Thexmore said. Their strongest shields lasted 6 minutes against our weakest weapons. Their best soldiers surrendered after seeing our true power. Their leaders begged to serve us. The images stopped. Thexmore appeared again. Now you understand. Your ships are smaller than the Kalani ships. Your weapons are more primitive than Kalani weapons. If they could not fight us, how can you? Daeho looked around his bridge. His crew was scared, but they were still at their stations. Chief Engineer So-Young Choi was checking weapon systems. Medical Officer Tae-Min Nam was preparing the medical bay for wounded. Corporal Woo-Jin Bae was getting his Marines ready for battle. You're right, Daeho said to Thexmore. Our ships are smaller. Our weapons are simpler. We probably can't win against you. Finally, you show wisdom. Then you will surrender? No. Thexmore's eyes narrowed. Explain this choice. Daeho took a deep breath. Where I come from, we have a saying. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog. I do not understand your animal metaphors. It means that being big doesn't always make you win. Sometimes the smaller fighter has more heart. Thexmore was quiet for a moment. You choose death over surrender, even when you cannot win. We choose to fight for what's right, even when we cannot win. This is madness. Maybe. But it's our madness. Thexmore looked at Daeho for a long time. I have conquered species that were millions of years old. I have destroyed civilizations that built wonders you cannot imagine. All of them ran when they saw our true power. All of them begged for mercy in the end. Why don't you run, human? Daeho thought about Earth far behind them. He thought about the Kalani refugees who were now safely away. He thought about all the other species that might face the Vorthak in the future. Because if we run, who will stand up for those who can't fight? If we give up, who will give others hope? Someone has to say no to bullies, even if they're the biggest bullies in the galaxy. Hope is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid accepting reality. Maybe. But lies can become truth if enough people believe in them. Thexmore made a gesture with one of his clawed hands. You have 30 seconds to surrender. After that, I will show you why hope is worthless against superior firepower. Deho turned to his crew. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to face an enemy that's bigger, stronger, and meaner than us. They've never lost a fight. They think we're going to be easy prey. He paused, looking at each of his officers. They're probably right. But here's what they don't understand about humans. We don't fight because we think we can win. We fight because someone has to. We don't fight for glory or conquest. We fight because it's the right thing to do. The crew listened carefully. Fear was still in their eyes, but something else was there too. Determination, pride, the look that humans get when they decide to do something crazy and brave. The Kalani refugees are safe because we bought them time. Other species will hear about what happens here today. Maybe some of them will find the courage to say no to the Vorthak too. Maybe this is how empires really fall. Not all at once, but one person at a time deciding that enough is enough. Time is up, Thexmore announced. Surrender now or face destruction. Deho turned back to the screen. Admiral Thexmore, this is our answer. We are the human ship Resilience. We do not surrender to bullies. We do not bow to tyrants. We do not run from fights that need to be fought. If you want to destroy us, you'll have to work for it. Thexmore's expression changed. For the first time, he looked surprised. In 3,000 years, no species has ever spoken to the Vorthak Empire like this. Well, said Deho with a small smile, you've never met humans before. The communication ended. The Vorthak ships began to move into attack formation. On the Resilience, the crew prepared for battle. They were outnumbered 10-1. The enemy ships were bigger, faster, and more heavily armed. But the humans had something the Vorthak had never faced before. They had the desperate courage of people who knew they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. All weapons ready, Captain, reported Heejin. All ships report ready for battle, said Junwoo. Engineering standing by, called So Young. Marines ready, sir, said Woojin. Deho nodded. Then let's show them what humans are made of. All ships, attack pattern Alpha. Give them everything. We've got. The small human fleet charged toward the massive Vorthak ships. It should have been over in minutes. The humans should have been destroyed quickly and forgotten. But sometimes the galaxy is full of surprises. And humans, it turned out, were very good at surprising people. The Vorthak ships fired first. Their weapons were like nothing the humans had ever seen. Beams of red energy that could cut through metal like paper. Missiles that exploded with the power of small stars. The human ship Defiant was hit 3 times. In the first minute, it exploded in a ball of fire. Defiant is gone, reported Lieutenant Junwoo Lee, his voice shaking. Captain Deho Kim gripped his chair as the Resilience shook from enemy fire. Evasive maneuvers, return fire! The human ships were faster than the big Vorthak vessels, but not by much. They dodged and weaved through space, firing their weapons at the enemy. Their lasers and missiles seemed small compared to the Vorthak. Guns, but they kept shooting. Our weapons are barely scratching their armor, said Commander Hyjin Park. Captain, we need to retreat. No retreat, Deho said firmly. We hold the line here. Admiral Thexmore's voice came over the communication system. Humans, you see how hopeless this is. Your ships are toys compared to ours. Your weapons are weak. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick. Tell him we're just getting started, Deho replied. The battle continued. The humans lost another ship, the Courage. But something strange was happening. The longer the fight went on, the better the humans seemed to get. They learned from each enemy attack. They found weak spots in the Vorthak armor. They started working together in ways that confused their enemies. Chief Engineer So Young Choi was working miracles in the engine room. When the main power was hit, she rerouted power through the backup systems. When the weapons overheated, she found ways to cool them down faster. When the shields failed, she made new ones from spare parts. "So Young, how are you doing that?" asked Daeho over the communication system. "Human engineering, Captain," she replied, sweat dripping from her face. "We don't build things to break. We build them to be fixed." Medical Officer Taemin Nam was just as busy. The humans were getting hurt, but they kept fighting. Taemin treated burns, broken bones, and cuts, then sent the crew members back to their jobs. What should have put other species in the hospital for weeks, humans shrugged off and kept working. How are they still fighting? Thexmore wondered aloud on his ship. The Kalani would have given up by now. Any normal species would have surrendered. His second-in-command, Captain Vextar, looked at the battle reports. "Admiral, we have lost 2 ships. The humans have lost 2 ships. This should not be possible." "I know," Thexmore growled. "Their ships are smaller. Their weapons are weaker. They should be dead by now." But the humans were not dead. They were adapting. Corporal Wu Jin. Bei had an idea. "Captain, what if we stop fighting like we have bigger ships? What if we fight like we have smaller ships?" "Explain," said Daeho. "We can't match their firepower, but we can move faster. We can get close to them, make them afraid to shoot because they might hit their own ships." It was a crazy idea. It was also a very human idea. The remaining human ships changed their attack pattern. Instead of staying far away and trading shots with the big Vorthak vessels, they flew right at them. They got so close that the Vorthak were afraid to use their biggest weapons. "They're flying like insects," complained Captain Vextar. "How do we swat insects?" "With smaller weapons," Thexmore replied, but he was starting to sound worried. As the battle continued, Daeho talked to his crew. "I want to tell you all something. There's a reason we're still alive when we should be dead. It's something we call the doctrine." "What's that, Captain?" asked Junwoo. "It's something every human learns in school. We study our own history. We learn about times when humans faced impossible odds and won anyway. Not because they were stronger, but because they refused to give up." Daeho's voice carried through the ship as weapons fire exploded around them. "We learn about 300 Spartans who held off an army of thousands. We learn about soldiers who fought in frozen cities for months without food. We learn about pilots who flew broken planes against superior enemies. We learn about people who stood up to tyrants even when it meant death." The crew listened as they worked. So Young was fixing another damaged system. Taemin was treating another wounded crew member. Wu Jin was preparing his Marines for boarding action. "The doctrine is simple," Daeho continued. "We don't fight because we can win. We fight because someone has to. We don't fight for glory or conquest. We fight because it's the right thing to do. And we never, ever give up." Another Vorthak ship exploded. The humans had learned to target the enemy's weapon systems. They couldn't destroy the big ships easily, but they could make them helpless. "This is impossible," Thexmore said to his crew. "We have superior technology. We have more ships. We have more experience. How are these primitives still fighting?" "Admiral," said Vextar, "maybe we should retreat and get reinforcements." Thexmore's eyes blazed with anger. "The Vorthak Empire does not retreat. We have never retreated." But privately, Thexmore was worried. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. Most species broke after losing their first ship. The humans had lost half their fleet and were fighting harder than ever. The battle had been going on for 6 hours. Both sides were getting tired, but the humans seemed to find new energy from somewhere. They sang songs while they worked. They made jokes while they fought. They acted like they were having fun. "Captain," said Hyejin, "I'm reading something strange. The Vorthak ships are starting to make mistakes. Their formation is getting sloppy." Daeho smiled. "They're not used to long battles. They're used to quick victories. They don't know how to fight when the enemy won't give up." "Are we winning?" asked Junwoo. "We're not losing," Daeho replied. "And for humans, that's the same thing." 8 hours into the battle, something happened that had never happened before in Vorthak history. One of their captains sent a message to Thexmore. Admiral, my ship is badly damaged. My crew is exhausted. Request permission to withdraw. Thexmore stared at the message. A Vorthak ship asking to retreat? It was unthinkable. Permission denied, he replied. All ships continue the attack. But the damage was done. The other Vorthak captains had heard the request. They were thinking the same thing. How could these small human ships be so hard to defeat? 10 hours into the battle, Thexmore made a decision. All ships prepare for ramming speed. We will destroy them by crashing into them. It was a desperate move. The Vorthak were so frustrated that they were willing to sacrifice their own ships to win. But the humans had one more surprise. As the Vorthak ships charged toward them, the humans did something that shocked everyone. They charged back. All ships ramming speed, ordered Deho. If they want to play chicken, we'll show them how it's done. The two fleets rushed toward each other. At the last second, the Vorthak ships turned away. They couldn't believe that. The humans were willing to die just to take their enemies with them. They're insane, whispered Vextar. No, said Thexmore slowly. There's something else. Something we've never faced before. The battle continued. Neither side could claim victory, but something had changed. The Vorthak were no longer confident. They had met an enemy that simply would not break. And across the galaxy, other species were watching. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone was standing up to the Vorthak Empire. Someone was showing that the great destroyers could be fought. The humans were still outnumbered. They were still outgunned. But they were proving something important. Sometimes the biggest victory is just refusing to lose. The battle ended after 14 hours. Not because one side won, but because both sides were too damaged to continue fighting. The Resilience was barely flying. Half of its systems were broken. The hull had holes that leaked air into space. But it was still alive. The Vorthak fleet was also hurt. 3 of their ships were destroyed. The others were damaged and limping. Admiral Thexmore could not believe what had happened. His mighty fleet had been fought to a standstill by primitive humans. Humans. Thexmore's voice came over the communication system. He sounded tired and angry. You have fought well, but this battle has accomplished nothing. You cannot win against the full power of the Vorthak Empire. Captain Deho Kim was wounded. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead, but his voice was still strong. Maybe not, but we've shown something important today. What is that? We've shown that you can be fought, you can be hurt, you're not gods, you're just bullies with big ships. Thexmore was quiet for a moment. Surrender now and I will take you prisoner instead of killing you. You have earned that much respect. We accept, said Deho. Commander Hyojin Park looked surprised. Captain, Deho turned to his crew. We've done what we came to do. The Kalani refugees are safe. We've proven that humans don't run from bullies. Now we need to stay alive to fight another day. The surviving human crew was brought aboard Thexmore's flagship. As they walked through the huge Vorthak ship, they saw something that surprised them. The ship was full of prisoners from dozens of different species. Tall, thin, aliens with blue skin, short furry creatures with big eyes, lizard-like beings with scales and claws. All of them looked broken and hopeless. The humans were put in a large holding cell with some of these prisoners. Dr. Yoon Seo-yoon, the ship's scientist, began talking to the other captives. She was curious about their stories. How long have you been prisoners? She asked a tall alien with gray skin. 50 years, the alien replied sadly. I am Torvan of the Nexari people. We were conquered when I was young. Most of my people chose to serve the Vorthak rather than die. What about you? I refused to serve, so they made me a prisoner. They keep some of us alive as examples, to show new prisoners what happens if they say no. Dr. Yoon talked to more prisoners. She heard the same story again and again. The Vorthak would attack a world with overwhelming force. They would destroy just enough to show their power. Then they would offer a choice. Serve the Empire or watch everything burn. Most species chose to serve. The ones who refused were either killed or kept as prisoners to break the spirits of others. It's not just about military power, Dr. Yoon told Deho later. The Vorthak use fear as their main weapon. They make people believe that fighting back is hopeless. But we fought back, said Corporal Wu Jinbei. Exactly. And look what happened. Wu Jin looked around at the other prisoners. Many of them were staring at the humans with something they had not felt in years. Curiosity. Maybe even hope. That night, Wu Jin began talking to the younger prisoners. He told them about human history, about times when humans had faced impossible odds and fought anyway. The Vorthak want you to believe you can't win, he said to a group of alien prisoners. They're right. You probably can't win. But you can make them pay for every victory. A young Kalani prisoner spoke up. But what's the point? If we can't win, why fight? Because someone has to, Wu Jin answered. Because if everyone gives up, then evil wins without a fight. Because even if you lose, you can inspire others to try. The conversations continued for days. The human prisoners told stories of their home world. They talked about wars where the good guys were outnumbered but won anyway. They talked about people who stood up to tyrants even when it meant death. Slowly, something began to change among the prisoners. They started to sit up straighter. They started to look at their guards with less fear and more anger. They started to remember who they used to be before the Vorthak broke their spirits. Dr. Yoon noticed something else. Captain, the guards are getting nervous. They're not used to prisoners who don't act defeated. She was right. The Vorthak guards had always dealt with broken, hopeless prisoners. These new prisoners were different. They looked at the guards like they were planning something. What are you teaching them? Demanded Captain Vextar when he questioned Daeho. Nothing special, Daeho replied. Just human philosophy. What philosophy? That bullies only have power if people are afraid of them. Take away the fear and they're just people with big weapons. Vextar did not like this answer. He reported to Admiral Thexmore. The humans are causing problems among the prisoners. They're making them restless. How? They're giving them hope. Thexmore thought about this. Hope was dangerous to the Vorthak Empire. Their whole system depended on conquered people believing that resistance was useless. Meanwhile, news of the battle was spreading across the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone had fought the Vorthak to a draw. The story grew as it traveled. Some versions said the humans had won. Others said they had destroyed half the Vorthak fleet. On conquered worlds, people began to whisper. If humans could fight the Vorthak, maybe others could too. If the mighty empire could be hurt, maybe it could be defeated. Small acts of rebellion began. Workers on factory worlds started making mistakes that slowed production. Soldiers forced to serve the Vorthak began to accidentally miss their targets. Some planets stopped sending their required tribute of food and materials. Admiral, reported Captain Vextar, we're getting reports of problems across the Empire. Productivity is down on dozens of worlds. Some of our conquered troops are performing poorly in battle. Thexmore felt something he had never experienced before. Worry. How is this possible? These worlds have been peaceful for decades. It started after news of the human battle spread. Our subjects are beginning to believe they can resist us. Then we must crush this rebellion before it spreads further. What about the human prisoners? Thexmore thought for a long moment. Keep them alive, but separate them from the other prisoners. Their ideas are too dangerous. But it was too late. The damage was already done. Across the Vorthak Empire, conquered species were remembering what it felt like to have hope. They were remembering that they had once been free. The humans had done something that no military victory could accomplish. They had shown that the Vorthak could be resisted. They had proven that even the galaxy's greatest empire was not invincible. Into their separate cell, the human prisoners could hear sounds of fighting echoing through the ship. Some of the other prisoners were fighting back against their guards. Captain, said Hyejin, I think we started something. Daeho smiled. Good. Maybe that's what we were supposed to do all along. What do you mean? Maybe we weren't sent here to explore. Maybe we were sent here to light a fire, to show the galaxy that bullies can be fought. Outside their cell, the sounds of rebellion grew louder. The Vorthak Empire, which had ruled through fear for thousands of years, was learning that fear could work both ways. The humans had planted a seed of resistance. Now it was growing into something that might change the galaxy forever. 6 months later, the rebellion had spread across half the galaxy. Conquered worlds were rising up against their Vorthak masters. Species that had been slaves for centuries were remembering how to fight. The mighty empire was cracking. Emperor Morthak the Eternal was very angry. He had ruled the Vorthak Empire for over 1,000 years. Never before had he faced a rebellion like this, all because of one small human ship that refused to surrender. "Bring me the human prisoners," he commanded. Captain Daeho Kim and his surviving crew were brought before the Emperor. Morthak was even more frightening than Admiral Thexmore. He was 12 feet tall, covered in black armor that looked like it was made from the bones of his enemies. His eyes glowed red in the darkness. "Humans." The Emperor's voice shook the room. "You have caused great damage to my empire. Worlds that were peaceful for centuries are now in rebellion. My armies are fighting on 100 different planets, all because you refused to die quietly." "We're sorry you're having problems," said Daeho. "Maybe you should try being nicer to people." The Emperor's eyes blazed brighter. "You dare mock me? I have destroyed entire star systems. I have wiped out species that were ancient when your son was young. And yet here we are," Daeho replied calmly. "Yes, here you are, in chains, in my throne room, about to die for your crimes against the Empire." "What crimes?" "Helping refugees, defending ourselves when attacked, standing up to bullies. The crime of giving hope to my subjects. Hope is a disease, human. It spreads and corrupts everything it touches. Because of you, millions of my subjects now believe they can resist me." "Good," said Daeho. The Emperor stood up from his throne. He was so large that he seemed to fill the entire room. "I have decided to make an example of your species. I am taking my entire war fleet to your home world. I will destroy every human city. I will burn every human ship. I will make sure that no trace of humanity survives." Dr. Yunseo Yoon stepped forward. "You're afraid of us." "What did you say?" "You're afraid. The mighty Vorthak Emperor is scared of a few humans. That's why you need to bring your entire fleet to fight us. That's why you're so angry." Morthak's voice became very quiet and very dangerous. "I fear nothing. Then why are you working so hard to destroy us? If we're not a threat, why not just ignore us?" The Emperor had no answer for this. Deep down, he knew she was right. The humans had done something no other species had ever done. They had shown that the Vorthak could be resisted. They had given hope to billions of conquered people. "I will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy me," Morthak declared. "When Earth burns, the rebellion will end. When your species is extinct, order will return to my empire." 2 weeks later, the largest war fleet in galactic history arrived at Earth. Thousands of Vorthak ships filled the space around humanity's home world. Each ship was massive, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Emperor Morthak himself led the fleet from his personal dreadnought, a ship the size of a small moon. He opened communications to Earth. "Humans of Earth," his voice echoed across the planet. "I am Emperor Morthak the Eternal. I have come to end your species for the crime of defying my empire. You have 30 minutes to evacuate your planet before I destroy it." The response came from Admiral Kyung-suk Han, the commander of Earth's defense fleet. Her voice was calm and steady. "Emperor Morthak, this is Admiral Han of the Earth Defense Force. We have a message for you. Speak quickly. Your time is running short. Our message is simple. No." Morthak was confused. "No? What does this mean?" "It means we're not evacuating. It means we're not surrendering. It means we're going to fight you." "With what?" "I count fewer than 50 human ships. I have brought thousands. We know the odds. We don't care. This is madness. You cannot win. Probably not. But someone has to stand up to bullies. Someone has to show the galaxy that evil doesn't always win. Someone has to fight for what's right, even when they can't win." Morthak looked at his fleet. He had enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. The humans had a few dozen small ships. This should be the easiest victory in Vorthak history. But something was bothering him. The humans didn't sound afraid. They sounded ready. "You have one last chance," Morthak announced. "Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick." "Admiral." Han's response was broadcast not just to the Vorthak fleet, but across the entire galaxy. Every world, every species, every conquered people heard her words. "Emperor Morthak, let me tell you something about humans. We're stubborn, we're crazy. We don't know when to quit. We fight losing battles because someone has to. We stand up to tyrants because it's right." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the strength of every human who had ever faced impossible odds. "You want to know why we don't run? Because our children are behind us. Because freedom is worth dying for. Because someone has to say no to monsters like you. Because the moment we stop fighting, we stop being human." The battle that followed was the largest in galactic history. The human fleet charged into the vast Vorthak armada. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Their ships were smaller, their weapons weaker, but they fought like humans. They adapted, improvised, and never gave up. When their ships were destroyed, the crews kept fighting from escape pods. When their weapons failed, they rammed enemy ships. When they were boarded, they fought hand to hand. Most importantly, they were not alone. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy. Kalani vessels grateful for humanity's earlier sacrifice. Nexari fighters, inspired by stories of human courage. Dozens of species that had thrown off their Vorthak chains were coming to help. The rebellion that had started with one human ship refusing to surrender had grown into a galactic alliance. Emperor Morthak watched in horror as his mighty fleet was slowly torn apart. Not by superior technology or numbers, but by something he had never understood. The willingness to sacrifice everything for what was right. In the end, it was not the humans who won the battle. It was hope itself. Hope that had spread from one small ship to an entire galaxy. Hope that tyrants could be defeated. Hope that freedom was possible. Emperor Morthak's flagship was surrounded and burning. As his empire crumbled around him, he sent one final message to the humans. "How?" he asked. "How did you defeat us?" Admiral Han's response was simple. "We didn't defeat you, you defeated yourselves. The moment you made people choose between freedom and fear, you lost. Because in the end, people will always choose freedom." The Vorthak Empire fell that day, not to superior weapons or larger armies, but to an idea that had started with a few humans who refused to run from a fight. Across the galaxy, conquered worlds celebrated their freedom. Children who had been born into slavery saw the sky without fear for the first time. Species that had forgotten their own names began to remember who they used to be, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the wreckage of the Resilience drifted among the stars. It was just a small ship, nothing special by galactic standards, but it had carried something that changed everything. Humans who refused to give up, refused to surrender, and refused to let evil win without a fight. In the end, that was enough.